Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Beautiful folks, how are you? Happy Friday. It's hard to believe it's Friday. Short week for me, I guess. So it looks like the entire week just flew on by. How are you guys doing this beautiful Friday morning? I got my froggy throat going. It takes me about 2 minutes of talking, really, on air and drinking my good tea to get warmed up a little bit, honey. Hot tea. What we got this morning? We got the Bigelow. I have no clue what flavor this is, but you know what is so funny? You know, sometimes you see people and you see things going on and you think, oh my gosh, you definitely family to so-and-so because people have such similar traits as family. So when I was in Fort Lauderdale last weekend, I stayed with Marlon's cousins. And so my stomach was a little bit off. Child, when you're not used to that American food again, your stomach be like, ugh. Good morning, everyone. So I ended up, someone says that they don't see me. Why? Do you see me and I'm fuzzy or you don't see me at all? Okay, let's get it. Let's refresh a little bit here. So yeah, so someone said, not someone said, I was, I had a little bit of an upset stomach. So I figured, you know, I can't remember what the first meal was that I ate there, but bit of easily agitated, very sensitive stomach. And so sometimes I can't, like if I go to a food fair and, you know, they have all sorts of different types of food and mix up this and that, like I have to find kind of what I'm going to eat and more or less stick to that, because if I keep changing and eating different things, it really just, no, KK says that I go to IHOP. You know what? I am not an IHOP person. I can probably count the number of times that I've ever been to IHOP. I prefer Denny's, quite honestly, to IHOP. But yeah, I'm just not an IHOP person. Where did I go? I'm trying to remember. I was disappointed to hear that in Doral, the Boston market that I always go to apparently has closed. On the plane, somebody was telling me that. I was like, what? I love that Boston. I mean, I just love Boston market, but they're becoming less and less available. Like you hardly see them anymore. So I'm told the one in Doral closed, and that was normally I would make a pit stop there when I stopped in Miami. So I didn't even go and have a look. Let me see. Is that any better in terms of the quality? Yeah. It looks all right. So, what did I eat? I cannot remember. And sometimes if I'm not eating on time, that's the real problem. So I think that's what might have happened on Thursday because I got up. Well, Thursday morning I had a patty. Mhm. Before I left Cayman, I grabbed some patties and stuff. And then mm, can't remember what I ate. But anyway, my stomach was just like really, really upset. So, Caribbean people drink some tea, honey chill. So I said, all right. So Marlon's cousin Christine opened up the tea cupboard, and she has more tea than we do. And I was like, you must really be family to Marlon because Marlon loves tea, and we got so many different flavors and varieties. So I tried this one that was a calm stomach one, and I thought to myself, oh, I need to get this. It actually tastes really nice. Had ginger in it, and I don't even know what else. But yeah, I kind of chuckled when I saw that. So yesterday, I spent a lot of my day wrapping presents for you guys because we are going to have a hoedown, good old time Christmas party. Over the next week, we have at least 50 prizes that we're going to be giving away. So, honey child, I'm going out of my way to wrap all of those. And if you know me, I don't actually enjoy wrapping presents because I'm not really that good at it. So, if you notice the edges are not particularly trimmed well and whatever, don't kill me. Just go with the flow. Because yes, it is what it is. But we were wrapping gifts and putting some in bags and putting some ribbons on some and bows on some. Not ribbons. I don't think we did any ribbons. We did bows and all sorts of stuff. So we have a lot to give away. So we're going to do Christmas related trivia. So make sure you guys are ready. Bone up on all your Christmas trivia. And there's some really good prizes, I must say now. Some of y'all are getting like cutting boards and not the boards, but the little cutting machines for your vegetables. And one is like a Kenneth Cole leather bag, a messenger bag. There's some good stuff in there. So how we're going to do it, we'll start on Monday and we'll do all of next week for the Christmas giveaways. And how we're going to do it is we are actually going to do trivia. I think we need to do the call-in because I don't want y'all to be fighting each other over any presents. But one thing I have noticed is that when we do anything on social, your comments sometimes are delayed on my end, and they don't necessarily come in the exact same order that you guys see them or that you've sent them in. So I was reminded of this yesterday when someone said, oh, that person, all of them answered the question at the same time, sort of thing. So to avoid that, I think we need to make it, you've got to just pick up the phone and call in. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And then I know some people are trying to WhatsApp me and some people are chatting in the show. It gets a little bit crazy. So I think if we just keep it to, where you're calling in to answer the question, that's probably the best thing to do. And we got some good prizes. We got little radios, little portable radios. They're so cute. They're like tiny. You can stick them in your pocket and they got little headphones so you can always listen to CMR on the go. So thank you guys so much for all of your amazing feedback on yesterday's program. Got a lot of good feedback. And, I got to tell you, the amount of people that called to say that they were in complete agreement with the show opinions and content, and they were happy that finally somebody was saying some of what needed to be said. It is what it is, yeah. So yeah, we did that. We went there. Sometimes you gotta just tell the cold hard truth. Like I don't get why people are afraid of the truth. The truth is not supposed to be an offense to anybody. And if you can't deal with the truth, I guess there's always an option to click somewhere else and go listen to something else that's going to stroke your ego and whatever else you're looking for. Um, and I hope that everybody understands. I mean, listen, my phone was blowing up yesterday. People like, Sandy, you just hit the nail on the head with certain politicians. And it's never, I don't even think I have to say this, because if you've been listening to the program, you would know this really, really well. But it's never personal. Trust me. I don't really, I don't care, to be quite frank. I'm not friends with some politicians. Some of them I am friendly with. They're not in my list of 5 now, so there's a difference. They're acquaintances. I'm friendly with them. But we have hired them to do a job, and that is my primary concern. Yeah. And whatever is impeding you from doing your job on behalf of the people, that's when I got a problem. Quite frankly, a lot of them have a less than stellar moral compass. Even when they're running around pretending to be Christians, y'all have no clue. My God. The stories. And I suspect there's a lot of stuff that I don't even hear, that I don't even know. These women, oh, I'm a Christian lady and I'm going to pray about everything. Meanwhile, you sneak in your driver into the hotel room at night when you travel and all kind of stuff. People know your business. It's so interesting how people believe that other people don't know certain things. Now, I'm not saying that everything people think they know is accurate, because I've seen that happen where people are completely off the mark. But a lot of times it's not far off from what's really going on. I have people say to me, and even yesterday I was getting messages about this. Oh, that politician, she believes she's so this and that, and talking about she up in church, and everybody knows that she swings on the other side. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know, because I ain't got no experience with her, but I sure have heard it for many, 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 many years. And it's often the case when you find people who are very adamantly against homosexuality, that they need to sit down and have a coming to God moment with themselves. Because normally that's in them, and they have not come to terms with, they can't help themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, and they've had it beaten into them by this community that, oh my God, you can't be a lesbian. And so they try to project that to the public, when in fact, when nobody's looking, they looking at the young ladies with a little twinkle in their eye, and it's not the Santa Claus kind of twinkle either. So, I honestly don't care. You can be anything you want to be. What gets me, quite frankly, is the duplicity of it all. If you're one way and you're out there preaching to people and condemning people and going on like a lunatic about it, when in fact, that's actually who you are, then maybe we need to have a talk about it. Maybe we need to be like, hold on now, because basically that's lying. You're hating on an entire group of people when in fact you're part of that group. The irony of it. And don't y'all think that it don't go so? And that's the beauty of living in a democracy, because we should just allow people for stuff like that. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what you're doing in the comfort of your bedroom. As long as it is consenting, it does not involve children in any way, shape, or form, and it doesn't involve any animals, which are both unlawful, by the way. Anything else you want to do, you want to have a swingers party, knock yourself out. I'm not business with it. Now, like I said, the duplicity of it. If you're having a swingers party and you sitting here trying to preach to me about this, that, and the next thing, I'm going to say, hold on now, honey, chill. Let's have a chat about this, because you are not who you pretend to be. Simple as that. If our MPs really focused on what we hired them to do, oh my God, they could get so much more done. But I got to tell you, a lot of them are narcissists. They play games with our lives, with us, the people. You know what I'm saying? They can't be honest. They're self-serving, they're self-centered. Oh man, it would be so wonderful if they could put all of that nonsense aside and just really be about the people's business. You know, the fellows who are out there cheating on their wives. Yeah, I know who you are too. And I know who some of your women are. Um, the wives are clueless, I suppose, or they just want to pretend like they're clueless. That's all right. You know, some people love living. What they say, what's that saying? What you don't know don't won't hurt you. Well, I don't believe that, but a lot of people do. And so they don't mind it because they're the ones who at the end of the day get to show up to the official events and look pretty in a pretty dress. So they're like, listen, if you're the side chick, you ain't going anywhere. At least that's what they believe, right? And again, in principle, you're an adult. You know, if you want to take those chances with your relationship and your marriage, then, that's on you. But I do have a problem when that starts to interfere with the people's business. And you'd be surprised how many times it does. Mhm. Some people be killing themselves. Oh, I need this kind of driver. I need that kind of driver because they're trying to hide their dirt on the DL. Don't you be using government vehicles and drivers to be taking you to your little hookups? Do that on your own time. And once you clock out and you're not got no driver, you go scoot in your own little car down to wherever it is you hanging out with these girls. Mhm. I'm just saying. But for what it's worth, I do believe that education is a mess. And, for all of her um, prayers and positivity that she's putting out there, I really wish that Juliana would be so passionate about what she's been charged to do, which is somebody was pointing out to me yesterday. They said, Sandy, this is her second term as education minister, and all of them claim that they need at least 2 terms to make a difference. And so, where's the TVET program in the schools? Where's the this? Where's the that? Because she's been in there for 2 terms now, at least 1.5 terms. What essential change had she made on behalf of her children? I'm sitting here scratching my head. So some of the post show comments, this person said, first 2 term minister since Truman Bodden for education. That says a lot. And have you seen any improvements in education since she took over? And they're asking how the lives of the average Caymanian has improved. hmm This person goes on to say, so let's keep them high and broke to ensure persons keep getting reelected. Hashtag handout, hashtag third world. So there you go. hmm The person went on to say they were really into the show. They're like, when did you have a wig? That was all of like 5 minutes, child. Wore it like twice. I was like, the wig life isn't for me. I just can't be bothered. They say, oh my gosh, you had me here laughing, calling Juju Judas. Well, if the hat fit, if the cap fit. They said, oh my gosh, I'm gonna piss at myself. I cannot listen to you at work. People are looking at me. I'm laughing so loud, honey chill. And then they say I had to go to the bathroom before I had an accident. And they go on to say that they have these predators in the school because too many of them are Jamaican teachers. Common thing among them. Huh. So, we touched on it yesterday. Someone says, where is the curriculum, including financial literacy and Caymanian civics? A mess. So, we talked about this yesterday, and I want to really stress the point today that our children are reaching out saying that they do not feel safe in our schools, which I think is such a sad indictment, right? The young ladies in particular are saying that they're being preyed upon, but I don't want to limit it to just young ladies because remember the school teacher, the drama teacher the male teacher who was preying on young boys, he was actually convicted of that, messaging young boys and stuff. Y'all forget these things. And I keep telling you, do not have a short memory. Yeah, this was a while ago because I remember he was posted on the sex offender registry Facebook page because all now we can't get a real sex offender registry in this country. And so I remember he was in a photo. The only photo that we could find at the time was a photo of him and Mary Rodriguez. By the way, where is Mary Rodriguez? Does she still work for government? Or did they retire her out and pay her millions of dollars? Anyway, at the time, she worked in education for a while. I think you guys might remember this because she was the one who changed the education report. Remember the report that was a pretty damning report and said how we are failing left, right, and center in education. And she, after we paid people money to do what should be an objective report for us, she turned around and changed it because it made education look so bad. Anywhere else in the world, you would be fired for that because that's actually a criminal offense, believe it or not. Yeah? Only in the Cayman Islands do you get transferred out into the special projects unit. Thank you, Siobhan. She says, love your top. Thank you. Thank you. Love Friday situation. So it's a hot mess. But their concern when we posted him was like, oh, he's in the picture with Mary Rodriguez. Can you take it down because she's also in it? I'm like, no, because y'all are the ones who hired him. And he's a child predator. Take him down for what? Seriously? Thank you, Lavana. She's going to donate some gift certificates from Lavana's Kitchen. Appreciate it. Love it. So it is very, very disturbing to imagine that our children are being subjected to this kind of behavior. And so I really want to hear this government talk about adopting a national safeguarding policy. Like everybody's always like, oh, leave that to the police. As Charlene said yesterday, the MASH unit is not their job. No, their job is activated once something has already happened. I'm saying, listen, we need to take a more holistic approach to this situation. Prevention is always better in these cases than an ounce of cure, right? Where they say a pound of prevention is better than an ounce of cure. So in other words, get ahead of the situation. You don't want damaged children after they've already been preyed upon. That's part of the problem now. Why you got people out there with drug addictions and crazy issues walking around, beating people up and all kind of stuff. Because at some point, they have been victimized and then they don't know how to help themselves. So we need education. It should be something that, during COVID, how they passed this COVID regulations and all the schools, private schools, every single school had to follow it. That's what we need when it comes to child safeguarding policy. Mandatory policy. All schools have got to adhere to it. Yeah. There's a little boy in the States. I don't know if you guys saw this. Unfortunately, he was killed, beaten to death, if you can believe that, by an aunt of his who they had given custody to. And so I was watching this on the news the other day, and there's a teacher who was talking about how she did everything that she could. She saw signs that something was wrong with this child at home, and she filed numerous reports. And the DCFS, their equivalent of DCFS, whatever they're called, just unbelievably did not do their jobs. They ignored situations. They ignored warning signs. The teacher said how the little boy always had a little smile on his face, cute little thing. And then all of a sudden he'd be like, he doesn't want to go home. He just wants to stay at school. I mean, kids will say things to you that you really have to pay attention to. And that's exactly what was happening with this little 8-year-old child who eventually was beaten to death. And this teacher said, his name is Demetrius Wilson, that she did everything in her power to try to save little Demetrius. She reported it, and it was just, once the aunt, because I guess his mother was incapable of having the children, so it was him and an older sibling. Once the aunt was given guardianship, their child protective services didn't even check in on the kids to make sure everything was okay. They totally dropped the ball. And for years, there had been warning signs and bruises. And then, she wants to keep the kids home from school and all sorts of stuff that just didn't add up. So you guys got to really, I'll share the link with you because it is an absolutely heartbreaking situation. But the bottom line is we as adults are responsible for our children and by extension, other children in the community. That's our responsibility. We have to protect the next generation, the upcoming generations, right? And it's so sad that we can't even, the bare minimum is just put policy in place on a piece of paper. That's the beginning. And then we make sure that everybody is following the policy every single school year. As part of the training for teachers, they should be going over what the children's law says. They have an obligation to mandatorily report now. And you guys might not know this, but for the years that I've been advocating for change, the petition that's still online, one of the things that was in that petition that was finally adopted, right, was mandatory reporting, because we didn't have it until this last version of the Children's Act now. And you know how long the Children's Act sat on somebody's desk and couldn't go from a bill to the actual law? It was years. And this is a country who can turn around a financial services law in a matter of a week or two. But yet the children's law, the Children's Act, sat for years with no movement. Even after it was approved, they would not turn it into the law. Why? There is a real sense that we as a community do not prioritize our children. And that's sad. It's sad because it's why Northwood is full of people. It's why people have mental health issues. Do you know how hard it is to fix something once it's broken? Take anything that is broken and try to fix it. Much less broken people. My God. Prevention. We need to be having courses for parents on a regular basis. How to deal with the stress of being a parent. Alternative punishment options. You don't always have to beat your children. Recognizing signs of stress in young kids. Getting them the help that they need. I mean, we need to get our act together when it comes to our children. It's as simple as that. So I have little to no tolerance when I see people, MPs, educators, who do not understand the importance of their role and who are simply not doing their job. And I'm going to keep on top of them as much as I can. I think that ultimately we need to start contemplating our options come election time. So Flashpoint says, has the sex offenders register not been implemented because it'd be easy to identify the victims? An accurate register might bring this country to its knees. You know what's interesting, Flashpoint? I hear that excuse, and I consider it an excuse, all the time. And what I would like to say is this. It is just that, an excuse. Let me give you an example of how we get it wrong. Over the weekend, there was this guy convicted and sentenced for molesting a child. So a lot of times, I go and I read these files or I sit in court, open court, and we're not supposed to report anything that would identify the victim. What I've noticed with other media, right, is sometimes they hyper focused on talking about the details of what transpired. And I think, there are times when there might be a reason why you might do that. So much so that then they end up not being able to identify the perpetrator, because it would be pretty easy to figure out to flashpoints point who the victim is. So we're not supposed to disclose any sexual offender victims unless they themselves come forward and say, hey, I want to go on record. I want to talk about this, whatever. That's then their option, right? Instead of us being just a little bit creative and saying, you know what, it's important that people in this community, even in lieu of a sex offender registry not existing, it is important that people in this community know who these people are. We have a very transient population, people coming and going. And so it is very, very easy for people to be victimized. And they go, oh my God, I didn't know that that's what that person was up to. Happens all the time. The shutter guy, how many times have we not written about that dude? And yet, up to this year, people still hiring him to install their shutters, which they're never going to get because he's a straight up con artist and a thief, allegedly. Still in court, not yet convicted. 12 charges. And there are many more victims out there. And it's like people don't pay attention to what they feel doesn't directly impact them. They're not reading CMR's Scamma alert section. Scamma da ya? Yeah, right, yeah. And so when they become a victim and they reach out, I'm just like, how? Oh, I didn't see that article. I didn't hear you talking about that person for the 5th time. I'm like, what a mess. We do need a better grapple in consumer reports, consumer protection overall. So it's not unheard of that someone is a perpetrator and people just don't know. I think it was last year I was in West Bay and a lady said to me, oh my God, Sandy, you know this guy, David Ebanks? And there's more than one David Ebanks now, so don't get them confused. Child, if my name was David Ebanks, I'd probably change it. You know this guy, David Ebanks, who was molesting this young child and grooming her and making her sit down and watch porn, all kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know exactly who he is, because when I had my shop in West Bay, he'd come in there all the time. And then I hear that this guy is a real sexual deviant. Yeah. So he was convicted and served the little bit of jail time that they gives them. And she said, oh, he's dating this Canadian lady. And so this person came across them during a sales transaction, right? She was selling something or buying something or something. And she's like, do you think I should tell her? I was like, wow. I would want to know if I was dating someone who'd been convicted of what he was convicted of, child molestation. Sometimes they want to shoot the messenger, though. You know how that goes. Yeah. And I thought about it when she was saying it, and I said, this is a perfect example. Here comes this Canadian lady now. She don't know nothing about what's going on in Cayman. Probably never read a Cayman newspaper before she got here on her work permit. Totally oblivious. Yeah. Here comes this guy. I guess she thinks he's a decent looking guy. He's probably given her some hard luck story about why he doesn't really have a job or whatever. He works that little West Bay charm on her. And next thing you know, the two of them are in a relationship. And he's helping her move furniture, driving her car, doing this and that. And she does not know that he is the worst kind of sexual predator out there. Mm, mm, mm. And that even women have been victimized by this man. Didn't make it to court, but they have sat down and told me their stories. I'm like, wow. Sexual predators tend to get away with things for a lot longer than you recognize. It is the type of offense that women and children find it really, really difficult to come forward and say, I'm a victim, that this happened to me. And that's why when we try to judge them, like, oh, why did it take you 20 years or this, that? I'm like, shame, shame, shame. That's a form of victim blaming, victim shaming. Because until it's happened to you, you have no idea what you will do, how you will react, and how you will respond. Some victims are never, ever able to come to terms with what has happened to them to the extent where they can report it to anybody, that they can tell anybody about it. But the ones who do, right? We need to know who those predators are. So there is a way that you can have a sexual offenders registry without identifying the victim. You leave out some of the details. So you don't have to say, oh, it was his daughter, because then it's like, well, gee, yeah, okay. How many daughters does he have? You can leave that information out. Just like on the indictment form, a child under the age of 12, or just a child, so that you don't even put the age in there, there is a way that it can be done. So for me, it is an excuse why in this country, we have yet to have a sexual offender registry. There are people who are predators living next door to them, and they don't even know. These guys move around a lot, even for a small community. Imagine that one guy, what his name is again, the one from West Bay as well. They put him back in jail, I think now. He's the one who has now received, I think, a lifetime designation as a sexual predator because he's so prolific. Somebody remind me of what his name is. He was the one who was on the beach the other day, exposing himself and masturbating on the beach close to children. He is a sick man and there is no help for him. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody knew what he looked like and we could all go on a website and look at these predators and say, oh, wow, that's who I saw hanging out at the beach. Let me notify the police before he starts doing those nasty things. So we can do it. It's going to take a little degree of creativity to have a sex offender registry in this community without actually exposing. Ronnie, thank you, you little brat. Thank you very much. Yeah, Ronnie Ebanks. That dude will never do any better. He is one sick, you know what. Last time he got 2 years. So he'll serve 60% of 2 years. He's only 53 years old. He's come out and do it again. So we can do a register, and I really hope that this government makes a priority. Now, here's the thing, right? Here we are talking about gambling, national lottery, decriminalizing marijuana. I'm not saying that these things don't have a place, because I believe you can think about more than one thing at a time and you can do more than one thing at a time. But why is it that we have not come to terms with things that we need to do to protect children? Now, I'm going to go on record and say right here and right now that this premier, who I know has a soft spot in his heart for mental health patients, especially children who are suffering, I'm going to implore that he considers, is that the right word? I don't think that's the right word that my brain just came out with. But you guys know what I mean. That he really considers the fact that a lot of children are suffering with mental health issues because of the fact that they are victims of child sexual abuse. They often go hand in hand, Premier. So I applaud you for your foundation and the amazing work that they do. But let's get ahead of the curve a little bit here and try to approach this from a more holistic perspective. After years of advocating for a sex offender registry, we now have this current AG going on record as saying that, yes, it is needed here. That was probably 10, 15 years ago that he said that. And there has been zero movement on this topic. So gambling is more important than protecting your children? I'm just asking. A national lottery, taking that to referendum, is more important than a national safeguarding policy? Mm-hmm. Decriminalizing marijuana is more important than a sex offender register? Cannot be the case. Everything gets priority but our children. Yeah. Y'all gonna have to build more than one mental health facility here in a minute if you continue to subject your children to ongoing abuses. Even the Bonaventure home, that place continues to be a hot mess. As many stories that we have done on that, and as many times that we talked about the issues there, not much has changed. Vulnerable children are being put in even more vulnerable situations by a government-ran agency, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to do anything about it, right? The minister that this falls under, I believe, is Andre. We've never heard, wow, the stories that I'm hearing about Bonaventure have me concerned. I need to meet with the chair. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, this is one of those boards that has not even yet been changed out. Let that sink in for a minute. You hear the media talking about all the stuff that's going on there, and you don't even make it a priority to try to get in a new board to see if maybe they can affect change? That gets under my skin. It concerns me. Catherine says, whenever I see that Webster guy, James, I think his name is, it makes my skin crawl. Oh, yes. And he loves to walk around a supermarket now. I don't know what it is about him in supermarkets. But speaking of James Webster, remember years ago when he was permitted, after being in prison for child molestation, getting a child pregnant, and then giving her castor oil to abort the child? This man was then seen working at his sister's daycare center. And I remember at the time calling into the talk shows being flabbergasted. How the hell do you have a child convicted, not hearsay, but a convicted child predator doing gardening at schools around people's little children? And you know, some of those parents came forward, and they're young parents in their early 20s. They're like, Sandy, I didn't know who he is. And I said, of course you don't. That's why we need a sex offender registry. Because the next generation is coming up. They were children when he was out there molesting children. And so now they're adults, they have children of their own, but they don't have any clue who he is. They don't know that this man in his little Afro style hair from the 1980s is a dangerous MF. And they need to be careful. And he should not, under any circumstances, be working at a friggin' daycare. Yeah, his sister is worse than him. Not just as bad, she worse than him. Because she know. He's a sick man. And the teacher who was a retired, his sister, my apologies, who was supposed to be a retired school teacher. Come now. Really? These people sick. The real reason in this community that we cannot address this issue is that too many of us know a predator. Wow. I want that to sink in. We have uncles, grandfathers, some of your fathers have been predators themselves. And so we would have to have the conversation on a very close level. But listen, if my father was a predator, you can't judge me based on that. Those would be his actions. But no. We want to cover it up because it makes us feel away. Oh, I feel people are going to judge me. What about how the victims feel? Yeah, how about putting them first for a change? Miss Juanita says, OMG, seriously? Yeah, my dear child. And it wasn't until I called in on a talk show and outed this man that all of a sudden he stopped working at the daycare center. Really? I mean, it should never be allowed. We finally have the ability to put what they call a sexual prevention harm order in place. Now, the interesting thing about this is a lot of times they're for a very fixed period of time. So even this Ronnie guy, his sexual prevention harm order has been extended by 7 years. This means to me, and I hope Magistrate Ramsey now, Chief Justice Ramsey, she's moved up the ranks, honey child, is listening to the program this morning. If she isn't, please get this message to her. Judges and magistrates need training specifically on sexual predators because there's no way under the sun, and legislators need training on sexual predators and how to write effective legislation as it relates to sexual predators. Because you do not have a sexual prevention harm order in place that has an expiration date. Listen and listen good to what I just said. Yeah. These guys are lifetime predators. Even if they've only been caught the one time, I am telling you, the list of victims is long. What is the point of having a sexual prevention harm order that's going to expire in 7 years? You think that when Ronnie turns, what is 53 plus 7? What is that? 60 or whatever? That all of a sudden he's going to stop being a lifelong predator? And your sexual prevention harm order, which includes him entering a residential premise after dark without explicit invitation, close supervision upon his release, cannot be anywhere in the vicinity of children. You think that's going to disappear after 7 years? You got to be crazy. A prevention order should be in place for life. Yeah. But here we are, putting them, 2 years, like they're going to be cured of something in 2 years. We need to do a better job. This person says, good morning, Sandy. How a society treats its most vulnerable is also the measure of its humanity. When they show us and tell us, we must believe them. Too many of us know or is a predator, plus they need to move Case Foundation from that ministry. Yeah, that's why we can't do anything about it. Because we all know a predator. Wow. I've been unfriending people as I see them get convicted, or as I see, okay, I got 25, 3,000 people on Facebook. They're not all people that I really know, but when I see them get convicted, I'm like, oh my God, let me get rid of them on my friends list. Oh yeah, someone is reminding me that the Webster guy, his first cousin is the one from the fire department that was running for Town and that also was convicted from last year. Yes. And I hate to say that these things run in families, but they do. A lot of times, because you'll find from one generation to the next, the children are being molested and being victimized. And it's a sad thing about sexual molestation, sexual abuse, but victims often become perpetrators. Not in every instance, but a lot of times they do. And that is one of the major reasons why you have got to get it under control. Hurt people hurt people. And for whatever reason, that I can't go into too deep the psychology of it right now, but one of these days we will have, a sexual abuse victim is more likely than not to become a sexual abuser themselves. Isn't that horrible? But that's the reality of it. So, yes, the Webster family has had a few cases of it in their family. And in fact, there's some who haven't been convicted that I've still heard stories about, honey child. What a mess. Yeah. Very, very sad. You gotta really get with it. This person says education is a mess. We need a working minister. The laws in courts are a joke. We need to have laws. Mandatory law, strict laws for predators. Once convicted, they should be on a registered list. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Miss Sandra. How are you doing today?
Not bad, my dear. How are you?
I could not agree more with what I heard you say a while ago about the government.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that you need to try to put in place instead of about a little split of weed or lottery, whatever, like the predators, like what you were saying. Yesterday, my back was hurting me, so I couldn't go to work. I stayed home, was watching the thing in Parliament. It was a big joke. The day before, Julie, whatever they call her, tried to, what she went on with, the same thing Pattern went on with yesterday. And because so much things going on in this country that need to be looked at. For instance, this Friday evening today, if you try to get across A.L. Thompson, it can take you 2 hours to get to the rest of the road. Put some police out there, make the police make the traffic move, instead of especially the Jamaicans pulling out in front of you and holding up the traffic. Yesterday it sounded as if it was a campaign thing in the House. It wasn't a parliament. It was looking votes, especially the PAC government. You have a good day, Sandra. I'm watching you.
Appreciate Take care. It. Thank you, my love. Yeah, I mean, they really need to get it together. They really, 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 really need to get it together. Miss Debbie says, yes, I am a survivor. Thank you, Miss Debbie, for saying that. Siobhan says sexual abuse can mentally destroy a person deep. And, there's so many people. What's the statistic? 1 in 4. So right now we have, 240 people on our live stream. Do the math. 1 in 4 of those people have been victims. And so many times as parents, we don't know how to protect our children. If you were listening to Monday's program, and I really hope that one day we can have Rhonda Kelly on. She said, she wants to warn people about what the conversation is going to be like, because she doesn't even think y'all ready to have the conversation. You need a warning. If you're not ready for this, don't tune in, kind of thing. But her daughter committed suicide, teenager. She was suffering from PTSD, personality. Oh gosh, what's the other thing? Personality something disorder. It'll come to me. And other things, depression and so on. Because between the ages of, and forgive me if I get the ages wrong, but I think she said 8 and 10. So for 2 years, she was being sexually molested. One of the things that people do not know is that 1/4, that's 1/4, of all sexual predators are being victimized by other children. Y'all heard what I just said? I'm going to say it again because you need to pay attention. 1/4 of all victims are being victimized by other children. And when the perpetrator is a child, people, society, you all treat the offenders differently. Oh, they're just a child themselves. They are the youngest form of a predator. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to lock them up for life and never let them out. That's not what I'm saying. Because the one group that is likely to be reformable, if that's such a word, are the teen predators because they're just getting started. So intense therapy can actually help them. But you have got to admit that they have a problem and get on it ASAP. Instead, what we do is, oh no, that's my nephew, that's my cousin. We're going to hide it, we're going to cover it up. We don't want people to know that little 12-year-old or 15-year-old Johnny is actually a sexual predator, preying on children younger than him, preying on babies, preying on toddlers, preying on his younger cousin. Yeah? And yet, that is exactly what is happening. And oftentimes, just like the adult predator, they are able to have multiple victims. And oftentimes, you don't know how prolific they are. Miss Stacy, I need to grab some tissue this morning. My sinuses are a little bit irritated. But you don't know how prolific they are. So it's not just your child, it's other cousins in the family. And, sometimes when I hear about these cases and families, especially in Cayman, people trying to protect the family name. Listen to me. Screw your family name. I want to use another word, but this is radio. Screw the family name. You have got to stand up for your child once you find out that they have been victimized. I don't care if that is your nephew, your cousin, your own father, grandfather's doing it too. It does not matter. You have got to step forward because you add trauma. Let me grab some. I'm trying to find some tissue. Sorry. You add trauma upon trauma when you refuse to address it. And imagine that in addition to refusing to address it, you also, right, continue to force children to interact with each other, interact with their perpetrators. Let me try and break this down for y'all for 1 second. You live in a family and your cousin molested you. After years of abuse, you finally, because you're suffering from depression, post-traumatic stress, and all these other issues, They're like, something's wrong with this child. What's going on? This child is under immense stress. And it finally comes out. You finally admit that you are being sexually molested by your own cousin, right? Not only do family members say, well, just get the child, just get her therapy or whatever, right? They're so dismissive. But they're going to force you to continue to have a relationship with that person. How crazy is that? You know what that must do to a child? That, okay, someone is hurting me. Someone has done this horrific thing to me for years. And you want me to still stand up in front of them at a Christmas family dinner and take a photo with them because y'all trying to preserve the image for the family? That's what happens in this country. That is the sickness that I'm talking about. People not wanting to admit. I mean, I cannot imagine how those poor children, how the victims must feel. Because, of course, parents on the one hand are trying the best that they can, but they're feeling the pressure from other family members. Oh, you can't expose this. You can't say nothing. And your child is like, Mommy, I need you. Daddy, I need you. You can tell this child 1,000,000 times that you love them. But until you stand up for them, until you support them in a meaningful way by saying, no, you will not be forced to have a relationship with this person. And you know what? We're going to cut off all contact with my own sister, with my own father, because you, as my child, mean that much to me. They have taken advantage of and abused that relationship. They do not deserve a relationship with us any further. You know the arguments I've had with people, from politicians straight down, oh, but it's just a child, Sandy. And I said, when you say that to me, that tells me you don't understand anything about sexual predators. You need to educate yourself. You think harm to an 8-year-old, you think it makes a difference if it's coming from a 15-year-old man or a 40-year-old man? The harm is still the same. That is supposed to be their trusted cousin, their best friend, their family members. And that person has taken advantage of them. You allow your children to go outside playing in the neighborhood, and you don't know that this cousin is taking her behind the shed and having sex with her, and she's only 8 years old. She's only 9 years old. She's being raped and traumatized over and over again. It angers me to my core when I hear it. And it's sad because as parents, I can tell you, I ain't not trusting nobody with my child. Cousin, you gotta be crazy. No. You're not having no playtime when an adult can't be there, a responsible adult. They're supervising it and looking right at you as you play. You're not going over to nobody else's house without me. I'm sorry. It might seem crazy, but that's what you have to do to protect your children. Because the world is crazier than you think. Morning to Carrie Whitaker. Amir says supported. Siobhan says, I have PTSD. Debbie says, I was subjected to being the town whore. Sad. And, we have a way of re-traumatizing victims, Debbie, and I'm really sorry that that has happened to you. Because I know of other victims who, one young lady I was having a conversation with recently, she was molested by the pastor in her church. Oh, Jesus Christ. And when she finally, after this going on for a while, found the courage to stand up for herself, and I think he was afraid that she was actually going to finally tell her parents, although they kept pushing her into church events and stuff when she didn't want to go. You've got to listen to your kids' parents. When your children say to you, I don't want to hug this person, I don't want to go over to their house, do not force your children to do it. There could be a very valid reason why your child doesn't want to hug that uncle. Because the little pervert always has a hard on and always trying to molest and touch up your kids. So when your children say no, respect their right to say no. I'm so flabbergasted. Whenever I post something in relation to this on social media, that children have a right to say they don't want to hug someone and those types of things, right? Y'all get up in arms. Oh, but that's so stupid. This, that, next thing. Really? If you had a clue what was really going on, the children don't have no rights to say that. You are sending a message to children that it is their body, it's supposed to be their body, and yet they cannot even say, I don't want you touching me. How do you think that translates when you're not there? And that same uncle, that same predator is trying to do the most to your child. You've already given them the message that you can't say no to this person when they want to hug you. So now when they start taking it the next step further, you have to just sit back and take it. You've made it easy for your children to be victimized by the messages you have taught them an entire lifetime. Oh, you must hug this person. You must kiss this person. You must do this. And I see the responses all the time when I post it up. Your children have the right. There's such a thing as consent. I don't want you touching me. Do not force your children. In fact, ask your children, is it okay if I give you a hug? Let them understand that they can have ownership of their little bodies. We need a complete mind shift change in this country as it relates to this sort of stuff. Good morning, Robert. Robert says WTF kind of people in society would allow children to be abused. Even in the public schools, the system is corrupt. This is not new. You know, people are just much more comfortable turning a blind eye to a lot of these things and just pretending like it's not happening. Because once you admit that it's happening, then you got to address it. Going back to Debbie's point, how they want to turn the victim into, oh, she's a slut, she's a whore, she's a this, she's a that. When I was talking to this young lady, once the pastor saw her stand up for herself, all of a sudden, emergency church meeting. I don't know what story he told the other church elders, but I suspect they knew exactly what he was up to. I suspect they all knew he was a predator and they were all covering it up to save face, right? So they turn around and call the mother and say, oh, we've noticed some observations about your daughter. She has the spirit of lust in her. I said, oh my God. And you know how stupid we are? You know how we've been so indoctrinated into religion that a pastor can call you and tell you that your 13-year-old child or your 14-year-old child has the spirit of lust. I was like, what the frig is that? Because now he's trying to cover his tracks. So when the child says he's been doing this to me, oh, it's your fault. Because you are a lustful child. You have brought this out in this man. This is what they were setting up. And I was like, wow. And you know the sad part is? There are so many parents that are stupid enough to actually fall for this cockamamie. You step to me, use the word lust when it comes to a child, and I'm going to knock your teeth out. That is how these people play mind games with you, and they get in your head. You can never blame a child for the actions of an adult. I don't care if that child stripped naked and tried to do a belly dance in front of this man. He's the adult. He would be the one to put a stop to it and immediately get the parents and everybody else involved. A lot of times they're using this to cover up. Debbie says, I agree with you not to allow your children to do sleepovers or to have sleepovers, and not even just sleepovers, play dates, know what your children are doing and where they're at. It only takes but a second for a child to be victimized. And when they're playing with older kids, a lot of times you're not paying attention. Yeah. Or your daughter's lustful. You need to keep a good eye on her. We need to pray for her. Really? There'd be some prayers that day, but I tell you what, it wouldn't be for my child. It'd be some prayers for knocking all your teeth out, talking foolishness like that. This is what poor little children have to be putting up with it. Putting up with. It is just so incredibly unfortunate. Children are afraid to come to their parents and say, this is what's happening to me, because they know that you're going to believe a church pastor over them. The church pastor can tell you, oh, your child is lustful. And so it's their fault if anything has ever happened to them. And because of that and the stupidity of the parents and their religious belief system, they denied that child an opportunity to even go to university. Oh, you're not ready to go off to another school to further yourself in life. Imagine the irony of this, right? Because you have the spirit of lust in you. Jeez, some peace. I wish some of y'all would focus on the spirit of stupidity that you have in you to be falling for this kind of stuff. Siobhan says the adult is to blame, not the child. Absolutely. Even with that Webster guy. When that happened, I was shocked at the level of conversation that people were having in this community. Talking foolishness about, oh, well, she was pushing herself on him. That little child fast, you know. I was like, wow. Okay, man, y'all sick. A child being fast, that's the excuse? That's the excuse for his behavior? And I was so shocked that you guys did not even pay attention to the video, because the video demonstrated that the only person that was having restraint was actually the little girl. She was the one who was saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. He's there sitting next to her masturbating and begging her to do more. And this little child is resisting him, saying, no, I don't want to do that. She had the wherewithal to record it, because if she didn't record it, to this day, that Webster would not be convicted. And then the audacity of this man to get up in court about, oh, he mixes medication with orange juice, and his wife and daughter sitting there supporting him. Apparently the daughter was very upset with me, because I call a spade, and I don't really give a damn. But someone told me she used to work at some gas station, and she was going on, oh, this Sandra, this and that. I don't care. I speak out about a sexual predator and it happens to be your father. You think I care what your opinion of me is? Sure, please. The fact that you could continue to support someone like that says more about you than it does about him. I don't care if he's your father. I don't care if that's your husband. He was caught on video. Thankfully, the child recorded it. Because some of y'all, even them, still condemning her. And it shows the sickness that we're having to deal with in this community. We need to do better by our children. You know, Kim and Brock they're a little bit behind in a lot of different ways. And I think Cayman Brack has a substantial child molestation cases, known predators. It's almost like they not got nothing to do but drink themselves into stupor and molest people's children. And the people who are willing to admit it know that the Brack has a serious problem from one generation to the next. You imagine when I came to Cayman, I heard stories of, oh yeah, that woman, she grew up in West Bay and the father used to tie her and her sister outside in the fence and molest them and all kind of stuff. And everybody knew about it. I'm like, what? Say that again. Yeah, everybody knew about it. And then when her children become child molesters, molesting little boys in the neighborhood, I'm like, y'all surprised by this? It goes from one generation to the next. There should be no surprise. Debbie says they're threatening to kill you or your family. You have to be strong-minded to deal with predators. Wow. You know, I've met a lot of victims because of my advocacy over the years, and some victims, you know, they are so damaged that they themselves can't separate, especially if it's somebody like a father, a grandfather, like someone who's supposed to love and care for them. It is difficult for them to, in their brain, juxtapose that this person has hurt me in this way, but this is my father and I love him and I'm supposed to care about him, but this was still wrong. How does someone do something like this to me if they love me? You know, they can't. It really does a number in their head, and you could understand why. Because I have seen some of the biggest manipulators. They learn their manipulation skills from their predators, from people who preyed on them, and then they use it. So there's a young lady. She's not young anymore. She's got children. She might even be a grandmother now. I don't even know. But I remember, you know, she would play this card where everybody knew that she and her sister, maybe even a brother, was molested by their father. Very prolific case. Back in the day, apparently even the MPs knew about it. Nobody did nothing. The wife knew about it. She refused to stand up for her own children. And as an adult, I wouldn't even call it the pleasure child, but I was working in close proximity to this person. And so I got to see a lot of the dysfunctionality firsthand. And she would do things like, if you didn't do something that she wanted you to do, she would actually say to you, knowing that everybody kind of knew her story and what had happened to her and her siblings, right? She would actually compare you to her father. She'd be like, oh, you remind me of my father. She never said it to me, child, because she probably knew I would have knocked her teeth right out. But she said it to another friend of ours or something she wanted her to do. And when she said, no, I'm not going to do that, because it was telling a lie in her behalf and whatever. Oh, you just like my daddy. I was like, listen, there are insults and there are insults. When somebody say you just like my daddy and your daddy was a prolific child molester. Girl. But that was her way of manipulating people. Because people are like, oh my God, I don't want to be compared to child molester. Okay, I'll do it. So she learned her own manipulation skills. Really crazy. No real functional relationships there because, you know, the father has messed her up in the head. And so, you know, they also, like I said, grow up now with a lot of issues, need intense therapy, and most of them not getting it. It adds for a lot of dysfunctionality, believe me, you. Jonathan, we're not talking about the upcoming referendum. Maybe on Monday. We got plenty of time to talk about that. That's not happening next week. So there's zero rush to talk about it. And I know that this conversation makes certain people uncomfortable. And there are people who want to move on quickly. Oh my God, I don't want to hear about that anymore. You need to hear about it, especially if you have children. You need to understand the risk and the peril that your children are in. Robert says pedophiles should be in prison. Some are, and a lot of them are not. The vast majority are not. Good morning, Miss Dean. Dorothy says, thank God for CMR. Alejandro says, generational curses from drug and alcohol and thieves and sex offenders. Every family, sadly, has at least one. Imagine. One that you know about. Alejandro says, I knew a girl in school shamed by the girls that set her up to do nasty stuff and threaten her, and it was horrible. Yeah. Like I said, 1/4 of all predators are actually children under the age of 18. So just like you need to be looking out for your children being victimized, you also need to keep a very close eye on the fact that your own children might be sexual predators. Listen carefully to what I just said. Your own children may be sexual predators. And the sooner you find that out, and the sooner you get them help, the less likely they will become a Ronnie E. Banks, who his entire life has been a sexual predator. If Ronnie said to me, Miss Sandy, I was victimized by someone raped me as a child, I would not be surprised. Nobody got him help, and now he can't help himself. Dean says, too much damaged people in this life. Too many people get damaged at a tender age, and it changes their lives for a lifetime. Hence, it's just sick, sad, and crazy. And that's why I'm a proponent for much more serious, sentencing, because you have taken somebody's life from them, whether you realize it or not. Their lives will never be the same. WhatsApp messages. Excellent points this morning, Sandra. The greater the status of the person, talking about potential abusers, the greater the scrutiny should be placed on them. Not saying that we should demonize them, but we shouldn't canonize them either. Oh, Pastor so-and-so would never do that. Yeah, and we do it all the time. And what people don't recognize is that there are a lot of people who put themselves in certain positions to have access to children. That's their primary reason for a position of trust. A teacher, a pastor, a coach for the little leagues, a coach on the softball team, all these basketball team or netball team or whatever. You got to know that you can't trust anybody regardless of what their title or position is in life. MP. Don't trust them. This other person says, don't forget about the little boys who get abused as well with girls. Yes. I remember there was a case in Town where a young boy was raped badly to a point where there was some mix up. Yes. That went silent and they claim, what they end up claiming actually happened to that child to me was just so unbelievable. That he self-injured himself with an adult sex toy. And I said, wow, the chances of that happening, was actually speaking to a physician about it, and the physician says that's impossible. He's like, listen, that you wouldn't be able to create that kind of trauma to yourself. This person says that poor girl didn't get any justice, and the family of the POS that molested her own cousin, have never been held accountable and out there to continue doing it. Another person says, good morning. I was molested as a child by a cousin, and it only stopped because my aunt caught him one day. And after that, I was it. No one sat down, or I think she meant to say that was it. No one sat down and talked to me, or I didn't receive any type of counseling or support. And I feel this is why I grew up to be promiscuous and have so many failed relationships. I don't even think my aunt said anything to my mother about it. Wow. Honestly, I don't hold no hard feelings towards him about it. He was only a child as well, but the support should have been there. It's sad because not only was the support not there for you, but I'm pretty sure there was none there for him. And I would not be surprised if he went on to do that to other people. And this is the conflict that I'm talking about, right? Even victims, a lot of times, are feeling bad for their perpetrators. Oh, he was a child too. He was, such a sad thing. So I'm assuming the aunt that caught him was his mother. No help for the victim. Nobody even talks about it. And to that person, you're absolutely right when you say that it impacted your life while you became promiscuous and you had failed relationships. There's a direct correlation to people who are sexual abuse victims and future sexual behavior, without a doubt. This person says, Sandy, a couple corrections, if I may. We said died by suicide, not committed suicide. And the stat is 1 in 10 children will be sexually molested by their 18th birthday. I think on this island it's much higher than that, but okay, if we want to go with 1 in 10. And it's actually an estimated 40% of children who are abused by older, more powerful children, not 1/4, which is 25%. So this person is saying that the percentage of, children who are molested by other children is actually higher. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yes, morning, Sunday. We're talking about these criminals and the actions that they're doing. You know that I had posted a comment on one of your posts with the Moringa Town robbery last night, and in my concern, there are 4 individual Cubans that are released from the detention center, so they say. And they tell me that they don't have no food, they don't have no water, they don't have no work, they don't have no money, they don't have no home, they don't have anything. They were released by the detention center.
This is who, the Cubans?
Yes, ma'am. And the thing about it, they are walking around freely in this island. I mean, it's 4 of them. I met 3 the first day, which was the day before yesterday. And yesterday I saw 4 together, the same 3, but with an extra one, which only leads to me to assume that they are learning their way around this island and staying post while the other one is scouting. And I mean, following criminal activities for years and knowing how they act, it is a real concern knowing that these people are actually opportunistic thieves when they cannot get what they need.
It is something an area of concern. Thank you very much. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Cubans here in a second.
No, I'm not talking anymore, but still.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All
right, folks. I'm going to talk about them here in a second as well. But thank you for your comments. A few more on WhatsApp, and then we'll switch conversations. So this person says, often the victim who is scared or ashamed to speak out is not believed. Then due to associated mental health issues, the person who can be then abused by multiple people over decades, it never goes away. And that's right. Once you are a victim, it's so sad because there's situations where victims have been victimized by more than one person, oftentimes in the same family. Yes. And you begin to wonder what is wrong with you. The victims question themselves. The stats for abuse have skyrocketed over the past decade. Not sure if it's due to more abuse happening or if it's more people actually reporting it. Grooming is an issue, as well as peer pressure. Remember the girls in the back of the school bus a few years ago? We all need to take the responsibility to be vigilant and look and listen for the signs of abuse, because the victim's behavior will change. Look for the signs. However, prevention is better than cure. So educating the children is essential. And one thing I hate to see, and sometimes if I go on a school campus or I'm around kids, I see little boys like manhandling girls, like grabbing them or whatever. And I will stop them and tell the young man to stop it. And I also say to the young ladies, do not allow anyone to touch you in an aggressive manner, even jokingly, and to manhandle you like that. Because they need to know their own self-worth. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't. And they put up with a lot. And next thing you know, that escalates into all sorts of abusive situations. This other person says the mentality of a lot in Cayman makes it terrifying to report when you are molested or raped. I'm a survivor, and I know if I reported my rapist, I would be the one brought to shame. It would be my word against his, and he's an elected member. Who do you think Caymanians will make the victim? Him? I'm still in therapy at 56 years old, dealing with dealing with that when it happened, when I was only 12. But God don't sleep. So sad. This person says sexual predators in the Webster DNA been preying on children for years. Hot mess. All right, folks. I appreciate your comments, and I certainly appreciate those of you who step forward as not as victims any longer, but as survivors of this. And I really hope that the takeaway this morning is that, we all need to be vigilant. We all need to educate our children at the earliest possible stage in life about what is appropriate behavior from others and what isn't. And the level of vigilance, hypervigilance that parents need to engage in can oftentimes protect your children. And I know some people might say, oh, you're being a helicopter parent and, oh, your child can't have a sleepover and this and that. Listen, I don't believe in sleepovers. Don't ask. You're not having none. You're not engaging in any. You're not making your child come over to me because I don't want the responsibility. You play during the day when I can sit there and supervise it, and that's it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I even say to my child, don't play in your room. Don't let people, oh, come to my bedroom. No. You play in your playroom, outdoors, in the living area, where it's easy for everybody to see what's going on. Ms. Darlene says, Sandy, I want to listen to your show this morning, but it angers me as we see the comments and how much pain is in our community. And you know what, Ms. Darlene, the sad part is that there's so many other people who are listening, who have been victimized, who will never, ever say a single thing. And that's their prerogative. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that that there are many silent survivors and silent victims of this. They can't bring themselves to talk about it. All right, let's take a break, a commercial break. And I want to talk about the Cubans a little bit. And I also want to talk about the situation with I want to talk about the situation with some scammers that you need to be aware of. All right, CUC indicates that they're on the road to renewables. Here's a really important message from them.
Renewables are very important to CUC. The environment's going to benefit, the customers are going to benefit.
It is the future. It's not a matter of if it's coming, it's when.
We can't stop. We do need the change.
Really, really excited to talk about how we're going to get a lot of renewable energy on the grid.
We have been working on bringing renewable energy to Grand Cayman for many years now and produced our integrated resource plan back in 2016.
Looking at how we can most effectively not only get renewable energy but reduce the CO2 impact of CUC's operations. You hear the comments or the misnomers that CUC is married to diesel, and quite frankly, that there couldn't be anything that's further from the truth. We know that renewable energy is the right thing to do.
There's a lot of value by using renewable energy, battery energy storage within your integrated grid. A lot of time has to be put together to do your research, understand what it is that you're wanting to put out there.
CUC has the ability to lead that transition, right? And be the first for not only Cayman, but the region.
It's going to be so worth it. It's what I come to work for every single day. To know what we're working on is going to set the country up for success. It's going to be a foundational element of the economy.
Bringing the public along with us is one of the key things to make a success out of it.
To make sure that we're doing our part to reach those United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Our team has been equipped, trained, developed. If we get a go-ahead tomorrow, we start.
And I see it in the future. It's not that far away. It could be as little as 5 or 6 years away, where we'll have times of the day where we are 100% renewable.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. So let's touch on a few other things that's happening in our community. I've seen some of your comments about the Cubans. And in fact, quite interestingly enough, last night I got a phone call from an individual who was talking about how they were at a local drive-through and they had a Cuban person, a migrant, I'm assuming, come up to them begging for food. Not food, my apologies. They offered to buy them food and they said no, they didn't want it food, they wanted money. And so they gave them $10 and then they turned around and called me and said, listen, something needs to be done about this. So I did contact the business owner and they said the police they sent the police had been called, they were on location, but they were under the impression that they were actually begging, or they were sitting down using the Wi-Fi, the hotspot, as opposed to begging for food or money or whatever else. And, I'm getting more and more reports that the migrants are out there working illegally. We saw an instance over the weekend where a woman gave them a ride from Bodden Town back to the center, and they stole her briefcase out of her car, and it didn't have any money in it, but of course they didn't know that, and it had her passport and other important documents. She was asking for them to come forward and to please return her briefcase so she can get those documents back, because now it's going to cost her money and time and resources to try to recover her documents. We don't know what we've imported in, not by our choice. We don't know what we've taken in with these Cuban nationals. We don't know how many of them are God knows what. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable that they're able to freely, because the government says, we have to process them, but then they're not really prisoners, so we can't lock them up. We can't treat them like prisoners, yada, yada, yada. But I can tell you that the average person in the community is very, very concerned about the fact that they're roaming the streets and we have no clue who they are or what they're about. And I guess it's probably not too far off from everybody else in the society, because they come here with a clean police record. You think you're safe. Little do you know, they move from one parish to another to get a clean police record before coming here. So I understand the sentiment and the concerns relating to the Cubans and why a lot of people are saying, we need to expedite the process. Unfortunately, what they're doing, a lot of them are applying for political asylum, and you can't dismiss that, because then the government ends up in court accused of all sorts of human rights breaches, et cetera, et cetera. So some of this is not within our control. Some of it is dictated because we're not an independent country. We have to work with the parameters that have been set for us. But I do believe that more can be done. So on, I think it was Wednesday night, we did a live stream on our Facebook page with some Cubans protesting down in West Bay by in the vicinity of McKeeva's house. I think they were actually off of Bolton's Avenue, and he lives in that area. They were told by, I don't know who, that they couldn't protest directly in front of his house because his house is a private road, and that's actually not true. I've confirmed that. Apparently there's a piece all the way at the back of the road that is a private parcel, but the road itself, for the rest of it, is very much a public road. So they were kind of hoodwinked of not protesting in front of his house. Now, the reason that they were protesting, and this has been going on for quite some time, is my understanding, is that Mr. Bush actually hosts these Cuban delegates that come here, and they have a good time, from what I understand. The red carpet is rolled out to them, drinks and food and all kind of hospitality, real Cayman kind, at the expense of, I guess, Mr. Bush. I don't know who's footing the bill, because he's not necessarily a government minister. He's not a government minister, so I know the government not picking up the tab anymore. I don't know if at one point they did. But, they have the red carpet really rolled out for them, and they get this treatment. So the people who were protesting were saying, listen, we refuse now to continue to support these Cuban delegates that come here. They're supportive of a communist regime. They're holding our people down. Our people are trying to protest in Cuba. They're being thrown in jail. We don't have any democracy. And when they send their representatives to the Cayman Islands, and the Cayman Islands officials, whether it's just in his capacity as an MP for Mr. Bush or whatever capacity he's doing it in, whenever that happens, that is only exasperating the situation and making it worse for all of us Cubans, both here in the Cayman Islands and outside. And there are some Cuban residents here who, are now residents, Cuban Caymanians or whatever the situation may be. So that's why they were protesting. And I think some of you, based on your comments, were a little bit confused and you thought that they were protesting against our government. They were not protesting against our government. They're protesting against their own government, who is coming and sending delegates here to the Cayman Islands. And then some of our MPs, aka Mr. Bush, is rolling out the red carpet to them, hosting them at his house. And then what he would do is he hosts them at his house and allows the Cubans who, come, you can ask questions about documents and this and that and whatever. And that's how it's been happening for years. Well, this time they actually canceled the meeting because they got wind of the protests and that the Cuban nationals have said enough is enough. I don't have any issue with them protesting, quite frankly, their own government. I have an issue when they be trying to protest our government, and we are actually doing our best by them until we can get them off this island. Now, without a doubt, the sentiment that they need to go is one that I completely understand. In tough economic times, which we're all facing worldwide right now, migrants will tend to move at a rate that they've probably not moved, in this case, in some 40 years, right? 4 decades. And they're moving because their country is a hot mess. Their country is a complete failure. Their government buckling and can't support them. They can't work in their country. They're, we complain about minimum wage. To them, that minimum wage rate is a lot of money. What people here making, I don't even know if it's a week. They don't make that in a whole month in Cuba. So to keep things in perspective, their situation is a lot different than ours, even when we talk about what's at the bottom of the totem pole. So they would rather go anywhere. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're trying to get onto the U.S. Listen, they don't care about the U.S. isn't the end game anymore, because there are things that might have been put in place that will make it more difficult for them to get into the U.S. Their end game is to go anywhere other than Cuba. And if that means Cayman, then hello, that's why we've had so many coming here. Now, I personally believe that some of them are being less than genuine about how they're getting here. I think there's an element of human trafficking that's happening. Larger boats, they're paying a fare. Their families in Miami or wherever are paying a fare for them to get on these larger boats. And then as they get closer to Cayman waters, they put them in the water and they push them in that direction. See, go over eso. You'll end up in Cayman Brac. And so they come ashore. We process them. We got to give them phone cards. We're going to give them, humanitarian rules dictate that we have to treat them in a particular way. And if the situation does not improve in Cuba, they're going to still keep coming. Now, apparently we have some kind of arrangement with the Cuban government where we're supposed to be sending them back. But I can tell you, I don't think the Cuban government is motivated to take their people back. And they themselves put stumbling blocks in the way of that happening. So I implore our government to step up to the plate and to revisit the arrangement. Because remember now, if they put them on a Cayman Airways flight and that's going to Cuba, someone on the other end has to be willing to allow that flight to even land and for them to be received. So when y'all say, oh, just send them back, that sounds easy in principle. But if their own country is putting restrictions in place, oh, well, we need them to all have passports and they didn't leave with a passport. Or we need to know who they are to prove that they're actually Cubans and all kind of foolishness. So the Cuban government puts a lot of obstacles in the way of a successful return. And so we need to go back to the table and say, here's what it's going to be. We need to be a bit more assertive, government officials, the governor. Step up to the plate because it is causing a burden on this community when we have to spend in excess of $1 million so far this year to house, feed, and whatever else we're providing to these individuals. And then on top of it, they're out there working illegally. I'm hearing about the red truck coming to pick them up. Other Cubans here and even Caymanians are taking advantage of this cheaper labor and are putting them to work in construction sites and all over the place. Have them working illegally, Barton Town and all over. And then at night, they go and sit down and lie down for free on the government's time. We need to curtail the situation, especially the illegal working. Yeah. And anybody who is found to be an employer that is employing these people illegally should be receiving some serious jail time. Forget fines at this point. They need to be put in jail. Do it to one person, I bet you it can stop. And they're also roaming the streets at a level that is making people uncomfortable. So there are people who are saying, are they responsible for some of what we're seeing? Now, I don't think that they're responsible for the armed robberies, which we've seen escalating. By my account, we had at least 3 separate incidents last night. One at Moringa Town, one in Prospect, and one, where was the other one again? There was a third one somewhere about the place. And the police have also said that's your own people committing those crimes, honey jail. Your own local grown home criminals. Maybe some of them just got out of jail. They always seem to amp it up right before Christmas. I guess they need spending money too for Christmas. But there's still other break-ins and other situations that is occurring that could be people who are just walking around with nothing else to do. Idle hands, honey child. Idle hands. So I don't want to encourage any hate against these people because I don't think that's right. Unless you've been in a situation of desperation like them, I do not believe that you can really fathom or imagine what it must be like to want to leave behind your family and your country. Still, they're very proud people. Cuba's still their country. And have to go somewhere else and be at the mercy of people who you don't know and who chances are don't even like you. It's not a good position to be in. So I have some sympathy for them, but I have more sympathy for us who having to put up with this foolishness, along with everything else that we're having to put up with, all the fake arranged marriages and the whole works. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The government claims that they're trying to work on expediting them a lot quicker. We, the people, need to know exactly what that means and how we can assist you, if at all possible, in expediting them quicker. We get that there are these sort of multilateral, communication agreements and whatever in place that, we got to have relationships, if you will, with these other countries, including Cuba. Let's play it by ear and see what is next. But I can tell you that the Caymanian people are getting fed up. For the powers that be, listen carefully now. The Caymanian people are getting fed up of seeing Cuban nationals roaming the streets. They're feeling uncomfortable about it. And they want to know what the government is doing with the situation. Why is it taking so long? Come and explain it to the people so we can understand. That's the reality of the situation. All right, morning to Ruby. Siobhan says they just need to send them back home. I know, like I said, I know it sounds simple enough, but it's not quite that simple. Siobhan says, so how are government supposed to help them over in Cuba? Our government can't help them in Cuba. And that's not why those people were protesting. They were just protesting to highlight and to bring to attention what their plight is. And the fact that they're saying that why is our government, aka Mr. Bush, perceived to be assisting them by hosting them at his house? Okay, help me with this translation, Lizette. ¿Cuánto llegan en balsa aquí y se van en avión para Miami? ¿Cómo eso puede pasar? Okay, and help me translate this. Now, when you arrive in, what is balsa? Balsa here. I don't know what balsa is. And you go on the plane from Miami. How is it that you pass? Anybody else can help me with this translation? Where's Siobhan? She's speaking Spanish. Siobhan, ¿tú hablas español? Ayúdame, por favor. This person says, I'm just private messaging you here, as I would like for it to stay here, but the reason, okay. Right. So this person says, I've also been a victim of sexual abuse and have to get treatment for it. I just wanted you to know. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, this person says, when my kids were little, I would not allow them to be bathed or changed at preschool. I never deemed it necessary for them to have a bath or wipe down with a white cloth by strangers in the day, as they were bathed often morning and night by me. So I did not accept that they needed to be cleaned in the way and to that degree after 5 to 7 hours of being of playing at school. This person says that should be for both boys and girls. I did not let my son sleep out. Absolutely. Boys are victims too. And the sad thing about it is a lot of times when boys are victims, they're re-victimized by society because we don't even want to hear it, that a boy can be a victim. Oh, you need to just man up. And, you know, they're nannies and helpers who've been molesting little boys for years. And society, the Caribbean society, is like, oh, well, if he's only 9 years old, it's okay. It's like, what? Unbelievable. Samoya says, so what does the agreement say that does not allow us to, when they come to our borders, to give them water and food and send them on their way? Is the agreement for immigrants or refugees? So, I mean, what is happening is we are getting a lot of political refugees who are, my apologies, financial refugees who are having a financially difficult time. And it has nothing to do with them being a political refugee or political migrant. But it is difficult to be able to say from a perspective of law that you know that just because. So once they put in their applications, they can claim anything. And then we have to go about investigating their claims and seeing whether or not, there's any validity to those claims. So that's incumbent on us. Now, France Manderson, who this kind of falls under as deputy governor, and, I think this is one of his areas of responsibility. He was supposed to come on the show to talk about this and marriages of convenience. Unfortunately, he had his health scare right at the same time. So he took some time off. It is my understanding that he's actually back at work now as of yesterday. So we'll give him maybe early in the new year, because it's Christmas right around the corner, where he can hopefully come on the program and really delve into some of your questions and explain some of this stuff to the people. So Darlene says if the police are saying that they are our own, why don't they apprehend them? Well, apparently they're trying to. And they have to catch them actually committing the offense or have strong evidence afterwards. What is happening a lot is our own people are also the ones who are hiding them, Darlene. People know that their son, nephew, cousin going out there committing these robberies, and they are doing nothing about it. Alejandro says, I would translate, but I didn't learn to read Spanish good. So you hablando español, but no leer español? So Siobhan says that clarifies that for her. You Little Brat says they seem to know more than Caymanians. How many Caymanians knew about this meeting that they were protesting? Well, the reason why they know about it, Little Brat, is number one, it happens all the time. And number two is the delegates that come send out a WhatsApp message inviting the Cuban nationals on this country to come to the meeting. And they're the same ones this time said, no, we're done with you. You're coming here taking advantage of the situation, and we don't want that anymore. We think that you guys are part of the Cuban government, and they are the problem why our people are even having to flee Cuba, et cetera, et cetera. So balsa is the little floaties that they come into Cayman. Oh, okay. I didn't know what that word meant. So the question then, Lizette is saying, when they arrive in those little floaties here, and you go to the airport in Miami, ¿cómo eso puede pasar? Is that like, how are they able to come in? I'm not quite sure. I think somebody said Miss Darlene can translate for you. She speaks and knows Spanish. Miss Darlene, so if we have to prove that they're Cuban for Cuba to take them back, then they should have to prove they're Cubans to get the benefits of a refugee. Well, to be clear, not only Cubans would be getting those benefits, but it's only Cubans that we have to deal with. If anybody else is coming in, even Haitians, or Lord heaven forbid that they ever start coming, because their place is in a mess, then it would be the same thing where we would have the same process for them. We only know about it because, I mean, from the perspective of Cubans, because they're the only ones coming. But anybody else starts to come in that manner, then we would have the same process of dealing with them. Someone says, are they economic refugees, or is Cuba emptying the prisons and mental health facilities? Well, there's been no indications that they are. And in fact, a lot of times, what someone has said, you know, family members reach out to us all the time here in CMR. They know that they've left on a boat. And so their family members are reaching out. So there's no indication that the Cuban government is trying to send prisoners or anything like that. It's just citizens who have had enough and trying to look for something better. So this person says they come on boat and they go to Miami in the airplane. Well, I don't, if they don't have any travel documents, I don't know how to get on any planes. So some of them don't have travel documents, not all, but some. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so wow. Crazy. So someone says we just don't know. And I said, well, there's no indications of it. Because like I said, a lot of their family members are looking for them. And they know in Cuba that they've left by boat. So it's crazy. Marshall says she's saying that how they come to Cayman, those little floaties or dinghies, and then reach the airport in Miami. She's asking the question. Okay. Well, I don't know that those same people are reaching the airport. They're not, as far as I know. Now, Cayman Airways does have a lot of Cubans. And remember the situation with Jamaica and Cuba, where Jamaica had actually blocked them from coming through, even the legal ones, like traveling legally. They had blocked them from using the Jamaican airport as a transport point because they were doing things like trying to still enter other countries illegally via that route. So remember when our people got stuck in Cuba? We reported on this. And I think we might have been the only local media that actually reported on it. But yeah, Cuban government had, and then this is what they do to us because we do fly into Cuba as well, right? They actually, when Jamaica said, no, you're not going to use us as a transport point any longer because they were doing this. They then I'm trying to see if I can find this article to kind of refresh my memory. This was sometime, was it last year, earlier this year? But the entire Cayman Airways flight was denied. Yeah, they were denied the ability to even leave Cuba. So the Cuban government would not allow our plane, our citizens, Caymanians, were stuck in Cuba because the Cuban government was upset that Jamaica was saying, no, whatever, we can't use their transport point. And it was a hot mess. And so then the Cuban government tried to put pressure on us. Here we go. This is January of this year. Flight returns from Cuba empty after Jamaica refuses passengers. So Jamaica, as I recall, had said, so it was a Cayman Airways flight with some 91 passengers from Havana. Cuba had returned ferry, which in airline language means it came back empty and it wasn't supposed to, with no passengers on board after Jamaica refused to accept the Cuban passengers. Exclusive CMR sources shared that the issue appears to have been that the Cuban nationals were utilizing Jamaica as a transit point to gain access to Nicaragua. So this is the thing, right? There's so many things that are interconnected. And this is why it's important that y'all understand both regional, domestic, regional, and international situations, because a lot of things have an impact on us. So sometimes I know, I'm talking about the war in Ukraine. Y'all like, I don't care about that. I don't want to hear about no war in Ukraine. I'm like, you care about it when it's impacting you at the pump, don't you? When you sit here complaining about the gas prices and inflation and this and that, you don't understand that this war in Ukraine has had a knock-on effect. And all of us are being impacted by it. This is where Caymanians sometimes are a little bit small-minded. So y'all don't know and don't care about what's happening in Nicaragua. What Nicaragua did a couple of years ago is they allowed Cuban nationals to come into their country with no visa requirement. So they changed the visa requirement. So a lot of them now are trying to get to Nicaragua. Because it is easier to get into the United States of America from Nicaragua. Why? And we've talked about this as well. It allows them to bypass that, what's that dangerous route that they take by foot? We've talked about this before in the past. But it allows them to bypass that route, land in Nicaragua, hang out there until then they can make the trek on from there. So the movement of, it's the Darien Gap. The movement of Cuban nationals is not something that is just impacting us. The United States of America has seen the highest numbers in 4 decades as well. Last year in 2021, some 40,000 Cubans were stopped. Those are the ones that were caught. So imagine how many were not caught, trying to go into the US over the Mexican border illegally. So the pressures are on in all directions. And so the Cuban people are fleeing the highest numbers yet. Same thing happened in Haiti, child. Can them poor people under some serious pressure with the gang violence and so forth that is happening in Haiti at the moment. It's atrocious. We're going to talk about it one day next week. Because again, don't be stupid to world, regional, and international affairs. Because when they start coming by boat, then y'all going to be like, why? And I'm going to say, hello, CMR explained it to you. They're running for their lives. So the Darien Gap, which is a route of jungle between Colombia and Panama, with this new arrangement with Nicaragua, that essentially removes a lot of them having to go through that route, but they still need to get to Nicaragua. It's a shortcut, and it cuts out thousands of miles of treacherous by foot journey. So Jamaica said, hold on a second now. They're using us to be able to get onto Nicaragua and stay there, and we're going to put our foot down and not allow it. Well, Jamaica tried that, and it never worked out for us because we got caught in the crossfires. Because this flight, I'm going to put the link here because we got all the itinerary and everything. The flight was supposed to go from Kingston. It was KX 620. Yeah, depart Little Cayman, Miami, Cayman Brac, Havana, La Ceiba, Miami, Little Cayman. So this was the itinerary for that day of flights. And so you see Kingston is in the mix, and Kingston's like, nope. So when the plane got to Havana, the government said, oh yeah, Cayman Airways wouldn't pick up our passengers. Now, they're not paying attention to, that's not on us. That's the Jamaican government. They don't care. So then they said, well, this plane is not leaving this jurisdiction with anybody on it. And our own people, Caymanians, were stuck in Cuba because of the Cuban government. This is why when you get into kind of even commercial relationships with certain countries, you got to be careful. Because they will change and do things at a whim that you're like, jeopardizing everyone. Yeah. So I don't know if Jamaica has changed their position or not, or whatever happened there. But Cayman Airways did confirm that they were notified by the Jamaican immigration authorities that they could not guarantee that some 86 passengers who were traveling from Havana, Cuba, with onward connections to Kingston and subsequent connections from Kingston to Nicaragua. So they're trying to use Cayman Airways from Havana, go to Kingston, then from Kingston, catch a flight and go to Nicaragua. They said that they told them that they would not be allowed to land in Kingston, despite the fact that they had tickets and itineraries being in place. Jamaican government said, we don't care, because we recognize they have been abusing this route to get into Nicaragua. Nicaragua does not require any visa, but then they're trying to go on from Nicaragua to Honduras. I mean, Nicaragua to America. Hot mess. So Cayman Airways and the Cayman's government was working feverishly, trying to find its resolution to get that KX 833 from Havana to Grand Cayman. And they were trying to find a resolution with the Jamaican government. What a mess. So the crew that they had in Havana, the Cayman Airways crew, they were approaching what's called their duty time limits, because, they can only be on duty for so long working. Those are FAA and worldwide regulations. And so they had to send the aircraft back and cancel that flight. No passengers. So this is the mix-up that we're in the middle of, honey child. Just because of that route. And I must say this. Apparently, Cayman Airways makes a lot of money off of the Cubans who travel on the airline. Y'all may not know this, but when they travel, they seem to carry a lot of bags and stuff. And so Cayman Airways making all kind of money off of them on the baggage. Yeah, funny child. So there you have it. They love that. I think it flies Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, or something like that. And they be making a killing, honey child, off that Cuban flight. They seem to find money to pay for luggage and so on. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's the madness that's happening. So let's talk about a couple updates on scammers and kind of where we're at with a few things. So remember the guy who, oh gosh, there's an accident by Public Beach last night around 11:50 p.m. The driver fled the scene in a red Ford Explorer. Okay, we'll post that up after the show. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. So this person says human trafficking is real. We cannot say it doesn't happen to Miami via KX or other airlines. No, I mean, we can't say it's not happening, but we can only say that they have whatever documentation is required in place. So you can't get on an airline without having a passport, a visa if one is required, and so on. So yes. All right. So remember the gentleman who he was trying to rent from a place and then the place was like roach infested. Y'all remember this case? And so he sent us his photos of all the roaches, the cockroaches in the place. And oh Lord, I must tell you, like legit, I was like, yeah, I couldn't stay in that place. So he did send us a resolution over the weekend. So of course, I want to update you guys on these things because I think it is important that we know how they end. A lot of times you're like, whatever happened to that situation? So let's just review where we're at with him. He finally did get a resolution. Praise the Lord. And so this is where we are. So give me 1 second here. Let me just pull up. So he'd sent us a audio note, and then he also sent a follow-up on Friday, last week Friday, to tell us what the latest development was. So let us just listen to the audio note first, and then we'll get to the development. And then we've got a couple other people who are warning us about scammers. And one is a rental situation. And so all I can do is warn you all. And then it's obviously up to you to be extra cautious about who you're renting to and who you're taking on board. It's a hot mess of a situation, I can tell you that. So let me see here now. All right. So this is his audio note that he sent us, his voice note that he sent via WhatsApp to kind of just let us know what was happening to his situation. And then we'll be able to see here in a second the actual message that he sent on Friday with the final resolution. So this is kind of where he was. This I think was sent the end of November. Okay, so here we go. All right. Oh, an error occurred. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Why can't that be added? Let's try it again. Okay. What a hot mess. Okay, that is not, let me just try to play it. That's strange. Give me 1 second here. We should just be able to play that without much fanfare. Let's see. Let me see, honey chill, what we can do here. Uh-huh. Let's see. Sort by okay, let me see. Huh. I think this is it. Let's see if we can pull it in. Mm-hmm. Poor fella, an error message occurred. Wait a minute and try again. All right, that's not working. All right, let's try playing it directly from WhatsApp because I think you can hear the WhatsApp messages. So here we go. Can y'all hear that okay? It's a little bit low. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, sorry. I forget you can't leave a chat once they start. Hold on. Facebook people are saying they can't hear that. Give me 1 second. Let me see. This could be another audio setting. Okay, let's try this. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, let me know now if you guys can hear this.
Good evening, Sandy. This is George here. Well, they called me last night. Not she doing, the gentleman who collect the rent for her. He called me last night and said that if I can wait until month end whenever he collect the rent, he will call me and give me it back. So that a result so far, because they wasn't responding until you do what you have to do. As you said to me before, once you put it on the mall road, boy, things change. And I recognize that is true because I wasn't getting all these response before. So again, thank you so much and still appreciate what you have been done. And I hope you may continue with your program and do good for this country, Cayman Islands. You know, we have so many people out here who's preying on people and do all sort of wicked things to people. But I know usually.
Apologies, we're going to rewind it because I think the radio folks weren't hearing it either. So I had to make one slight audio adjustment. So here we go. Listen again.
Good evening, Sandy. This is George here. Well, they called me last night. Not she doing, the gentleman who collect the rent for her. He called me last night and said that if I can wait until month end whenever he collect the rent, he will call me and give me it back. So that a result so far, because they wasn't responding until you do what you have to do. As you said to me before, once you put it on the mall road, boy, things change. And I recognize that is true because I wasn't getting all these response before. So again, thank you so much and still appreciate what you have been done. And I hope you may continue with your program and do good for this country, Cayman Islands. You know, we have so many people out here who's preying on people and do all sort of wicked things to people. But I know you're a lady, you're a fair and just person. I know you will expose them, you know. So that's why I choose your form of media. Yeah. So to me, you get more result than what the police will do. You see. and it shouldn't happen. But nevertheless, I still want you do your campaign and let the government put in measures in place to really protect landlord and tenants. They need a hack. It's time now. Time is different. Time is changing. There are more people coming to Cayman, and a lot of people being abused. So thank you so much again, and thank you and thank you and thank you. I'll keep on listening to your program. I will never stop, although I always do while I was in Jamaica.
All right, folks. Thanks again to him for providing an update. And in addition to that, now on Friday, last week, Friday, he sent the following. He said, "Pleasant good morning to you, Sandy. I am thanking you for the effort that you made during my time of stress with the landlord. I appreciate you. Just want you to keep on working hard as usual for government to put in place measures that can protect both parties in the case be resolved matters in the Landlord and Tenants Act. I received all of my money last night, all $1,425. Again, I thank you. So big up to you and your crew. Just want you to know I'm a long time listener to your program. Again, thanks. May God bless and keep you so that these islands through your media will be a better place. Thanks." So he eventually on Friday got his money back. So thanks for the update. And of course, thank you for the resolution to this situation. Because again, this was a Caymanian that was taking advantage of him. Very, very unfortunate. So we had another lady who reached out indicating that she had some concerns about a man who was renting from her and then never paid. Oh my gosh. So this is a situation where this man, apparently now that she has been victimized by him, she's well aware that he has a history of non-payment, and he is very, very prolific with, going out there and taking advantage of landlords. So it goes both ways, folks. You have a situation where landlords are taking advantage of people, and likewise, some tenants are taking advantage of landlords. In most cases, the landlords have a bit of an upper hand because it is their property. And of course, they can evict you with little to no notice, right? So we received this message on, this was actually while I was away. So this was, what day was this? This was Monday. I was come back on Monday, yeah. So this one says that I've decided to send this with the hope of preventing hardworking short-term rental owners from being conned out of their money. I have a short-term rental unit, and on July the 22nd, Mr. Earl Lindo contacted me and said he urgently required to rent my rental unit because his belongings were out on a lawn. Despite not having the full payment with deposit, I rented him the unit on his promise to pay. Staying for 3 nights subsequently turned into 3 weeks. During the period, I significantly reduced his nightly payment, but he made partial payment only after I frequently called him for payments. Eventually, he started making promises of complete payment, which never came to fruition. Having incurred an outstanding balance of $725, I gave him advance notice to make full payment and leave the premise on Friday, August the 12th of 2022. While he and his wife were packing to leave, I inquired about the payment, which he replied and said, "My employer will pay you." I immediately called the employer and inquired if this was true, and his employer was surprised and denied having knowledge of this. I told him I would call the police and report the matter, and he then replied, "The police isn't going to make me have the money." I called the police while Mr. Lindo and his wife packed, and the police said it's a civil matter, as they always will do. Later that afternoon, I learned from his employer that he was evicted from his last place of rental, hence the reason why his belongings were on someone's lawn. And they have provided some photos, and someone responded to say that they had the exact same thing happen to them as well. Several people said Mr. Lindo also did the exact same thing to me at my property at Northwest Point Road, ran off owing for 5 days, and I didn't know where to find him. So we have a photo of Mr. Lindo. He provides apparently a driver's license. And so we can certainly share that with you all. Needless to say, you know, when you see a situation where a local individual is looking for short-term rental, that in and of itself should be a red flag for you to dig a little bit deeper and not just accept them at face value. Someone says to you, oh, you know, my stuff was on the lawn. You need to be asking yourself, why? Why would it have been on somebody's lawn? What's this backstory? And don't always take what they tell you at face value, because of course they always make up stuff about, oh, you know, this, that, and the next thing. You've got to dig and check into it. So this landlord is still owed, my understanding, over $500. And the prospects of her probably ever getting that money back is going to be slim to none for Mr. Lindo. He says if he ain't got it, the police can't do anything about it. They can't force him to pay what he doesn't have. Really, really unfortunate, because again, people like him are making it bad on everybody else out there who might find themselves in a situation where they need a short-term rental. But, you know, now they're going to be looked at with a very keen eye because of people like Mr. Lindo. All I can tell you, folks, is do not rent to him. If you know him, he's going to present you, I guess, with his driver's license. He does have a Cayman license. And so it is in your best interest not to have any dealings with him unless you're looking for headache in your life. And I'm assuming you don't, or you're not looking for it. So we do have some photos here of him and the wife packing up their truck full of everything, I guess, that they own. You know, and it's not nice, because people are using, if you're lucky enough to have a rental property, which a lot of people don't, that doesn't mean that you're in a position to let people stay there for free. A lot of people have rental properties and there is still mortgage on the property. There is money owed, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, they have bills, and the audacity of these people is they go in there and they're actually accruing a bill, electricity and otherwise, then they're going to leave you not only with the rent money that's owed, but with other utilities and other bills that are owed as well. What a mess. So here's Mr. Lindo and his wife packing up their truck full of bags and suitcases and all sorts of stuff. Again, it seems to me that they should be looking for a full-time rental situation and not short-term, but this is what they're going out there and doing. And they're overstaying. Oh, we only need it for 3-4 days. And then they end up staying for weeks and months. And then it becomes challenging for you to get them out of your place. This is what he looks like. So to all landlords, beware of Mr. Lindo is his name. Yeah. That's the best advice that I can give you. You've just got to be very, very careful. What a mess, I tell you. Hoarders, says Alejandro. Well, I don't know if they're hoarders or not. But he's been planning or promising Earl Lindo to pay these people. And honestly, he has not done so. And like I said, probably the chances of him doing so are going to be slim to none. So just don't rent to him. Very, very sad situation. The cost surpasses his $125 deposit. And this person was trying to help him by decreasing the amount that he actually owed to them to $525, and still Mr. Lindo has managed to leave them high and dry, as all indications are that he has done to others as well. So last week, we also featured a gentleman who unfortunately just is not going to do the right thing. Now, this is a Caymanian, and with all people, regardless of where they're from, we give them an opportunity to rectify the situation. So this guy, you guys remember we called him, I think on Thursday of last week, to say, hey, you got a week. What are you going to do about it? Well, what's his name again? He works for government, interestingly enough. Hold on now. Let me try to remember his name. So this guy actually hold on, let me get his name. Let me tell you what he did, because what he did is very, very interesting. So he sold a vehicle. Hear this one now. Sold a truck to someone that he didn't have legal title to sell, because apparently he had gone to one of these loan to payday people, borrowed money, used the truck as collateral, defaulted on it, yeah, and then turned around and the company that he borrowed the money from, they confiscated the truck and the guy had spent $11,000 on the truck, made $9,000 worth of improvements on the truck. So now he's out almost 20 grand or 20 grand, whatever that is. And this dude has no truck. Truck was taken by the company that had the lien on it. They had the paperwork. And that was it. Yeah. So we called him and he claims that he was going to get on it. Let me tell you what he did, because this is kind of interesting. What he decided to do. So in an effort to try to starve off the situation, he thinks that he can go now and give the guy $500. This is like 3 years later. The guy's like, listen, there is no more payment plan option that is available. That is long gone. No, that not gonna work anymore. You need to find my money and you need to pay me my money now. The most interesting thing about this is over the years, the man has had all kind of excuses as to why he can't pay. But he could manage to go to the bank, get a bank loan, buy a truck from an MP in Northside, and drive it around looking pretty in this truck. So I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute now. The audacity of these people, you know. You have time in money and resources to go secure a bank loan for another vehicle. And meanwhile, all this time, you have not been paying this man anything? Seriously? Are you crazy or what? And now that it's come to CMR, you think, oh, I'll just give you $500 now, $500 in another 5 years, and we'll be good. Nope, nope, and nope. So the guy says, I don't want your $500. I don't want your money. I'm not agreeing to any sort of a payment plan. I want my money. I've been more than patient, and I want my money in full. So, needless to say, he'll be posted up a little bit later on today. I don't know where he's going to get the money from, but if he can find time and resources to go to the bank and borrow money from them, I would suggest that he find the man money. Marshall says that he could have started that payment plan 3 years ago. Exactly. And at this point, the man is like, listen, I'm done with it. I'm not interested in the payment plan. I want my money and I want it in full. And I don't care how you get it. If you got to go out in these streets and twerk and work it, you'll find a way. So he better go talk to his MP, see if he can give him a loan. And then he can take his time and pay him back. No, sir. Anyway, when you see him up, you'll know the backstory as to what exactly is going on. There's a couple others that people have sent me that I need to review because, of course, now you got to be sending documentation. To go along with what you claim has happened so that we can verify, what's going on. Make sure you send your messages and all that good stuff, your screenshots of everything. So Joshua McLean, sorry for you, but you're going to be posted today. We gave you a week. I had to tell you to get it together, and here we are. Such a sad indictment. Folks, please do not forget that Parliament has been in session this week. So on Monday, we'll have a discussion about some of what has been going on. I need to bring you guys up to speed on that. It's important that you listen to the parliamentary proceedings if you can for yourself. But in lieu of that, we tried to bring you the highlights. Marshall says, not twerking. Listen, they be out in the streets doing whatever they got to do to get it otherwise. So I don't care how he gets it, but the man wants his money. So on Monday, we're going to start giving out presents. We're still wrapping. We're going to have a Christmas raffle here. We've got over 50 prizes. If you want to donate a prize, give us a call as well. We'll take it. But we got some really nice gifts and stuff for you guys. And so we're going to do Christmas trivia, I think. Hopefully we can find 50 Christmas trivia questions. So we'll do Christmas trivia. And then how we're going to do it is you're going to pick a number between 1 and whatever number prizes we have. And you pick a number and then you get to choose. I'll give you one opportunity to swap it, but you're not going to know what the prize is. So that's the thing is you won't know what the prize is. So, okay, you get number 20. Do you want to keep that number or do you want to swap it for something else? You get one swap. Sometimes you end up swapping it for something else that's not as great as a prize, but hey, it's free. So what the heck? So tune in, please, on Monday for that. Aliana says, I'd like to watch these parliamentary meetings, but would rather watch paint dry. Lord Jesus, they can get a little bit dry. So that's why we only bring you the highlights, honey child. Jonathan says we need a proper strip club if they want to make the proper money. Well, I don't know that Joshua is going to be able to make money stripping, whether you have a proper strip club or not. I'm just saying. You need a certain quality of assets to be desirable to make money in that field. So I'm just kidding when I said he should be twerking, because I don't think he got the twerkable parts. But you never know. You know, somebody out there might like it. But I'm just joking, really. He needs to find a way to borrow the money from whomever and pay this man back his money. The man is done playing games with him. He's tired of the excuses after excuses of this one being sick and that one being sick, and then blah, 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 blah. The man just don't want to hear no more freaking excuses. As simple as that. All I can tell you, folks, is we do need more consumer education, because a lot of times y'all are too trustworthy. You need to learn not to trust people quite so easily. And you need to ask questions, you know, put contracts in writing and so forth. If you're going to purchase a vehicle, ensure that it is free to transfer. And in fact, most people, you can't trust them where they give you the paperwork and you give them a check. No. You go down to the DMV with me. We sit right there together holding hands like bros, little bromance, for the 15 minutes it's going to take us to get through with the DMV. We do the transfer. I ensure that there's no issues. And once it's legally transferred into my name, I got your check. Don't give them cash. Give them a bank draft or a check. Here you go with your money. Bank draft is better. And then they can go to the bank, put that in the thing, and you're good to go. Do not trust those people. So somebody said that he used the money on weight loss surgery. You sure he lost any weight? What hot mess. Yes, sir. Well, he better try and use it for something else now, because he owed that man the money. Somebody says, whatever happened to the lady from Parker's who stole $5,000 of partner money and didn't pay it back? What happened to the teacher that broke? Oh, yes. So the teacher, dude, who we had featured a couple days ago, that was last week, right? As far as I know, he's still not paid that woman back her money yet. So she's going to have to take him to civil court. He one of them that just don't care. Even the kids at SciFact, when I went to SciFact the other day, they were like, oh, yeah, you had Mr. So-and-so from John Gray up on Mall Road. I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. What a poor example for his students, right? His employer should really step in, because, first of all, he's working outside the terms of his contract. Running this side hustle of selling cars, and that's how this mix-up came about. The lady from Parker's, we never heard anything more about her. Another scammer. There are some people, remember all the Blossom Friends thing where y'all was all mixed up in that money thing? There are people who, I know one Spanish woman, what her name is, she's back on island. Now she ran off to Honduras until things settled down. And now she's back. I'm trying to remember her name now, but anyway. She is now back on island, hoping that you've forgotten that she owes you money to the tune of thousands of dollars, because you decided to join her Blossom Circle, and she was out there shopping and living her best life on your money. So you go figure. Oh, so somebody said that, yes, him and his mom had weight loss surgery, and that's what he used the money for. What the hell? No, sir. You cannot make this stuff up. Someone says, as a government employee, re his weight loss surgery, it would have been covered under cynical ? I don't think he was working for government 3 years ago. So I believe this person when they say, yeah. When they say that, you know. All right, so those are the updates that we've got for you. A couple other cases of people asking for help with recovering money and that sort of thing. So we'll see what we can do. But I tell you what, it is a rough situation out there, folks. You've just got to be very, very vigilant and on top of things. All right. So I want you guys to have a safe weekend. Couple robberies last night indicate that the criminals are obviously not taking a break. And so, you got to be on your P's and Q's, both as a business owner and as a regular citizen. You have to ensure that you are doing your part. Just be careful. Yeah. Okay, so we've got news coming up. Stay tuned for the news. And again, please be safe out in these streets because it just is not easy out there.
Hello, I'm Kevin Watler, and this is your CMR Daily Buzz. Here's a summary of some of Cayman's latest headlines. Members of Parliament have voted in the majority to support a referendum on a national lottery and decriminalization of small quantities of cannabis. The motion was voted 16 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 absentee. The referendum will go forward, and a date will be announced in the future. Students attending government high schools will have a chance to earn a scholarship valued at up to $100,000 per year. The Ministry of Education said the newest scholarship aims to provide full tuition support to the most outstanding Caymanian male and female scholars accepted to pursue overseas undergraduate tertiary studies at some of the world's most prestigious universities. Police recovered a large amount of ganja earlier this week in Georgetown and Cayman Brac. Around 165 pounds was from the Georgetown recovery, and police did not say how much was from the Cayman Brac recovery. A bar on West Bay Road just south of 7 Mile Public Beach was robbed Wednesday. Police say a masked man entered the bar through the rear door with a firearm and demanded money from a worker. Meanwhile, a 25-year-old man was charged with the Hell Road service station robbery that occurred last Monday. The other person involved in the robbery has not been arrested so far. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service cybercrime team is warning the public to beware of an email pretending to be from the Royal Bank of Canada asking their customers to click on a link. The email is not from the bank and can compromise security if the link is clicked on. Now for your CMR weather update. It's brought to you by WG Charters. Sunrise at 6:47, sunny during the day with an increase in showers at nighttime. When the temperature is at 83 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity around 63% like the forecast calls for, it will feel like it's in the high 80s. Winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour and the sun sets at 5:47. At nighttime, the temperature falls to the mid-70s. Looking forward, similar weather conditions are expected. It looks like there is an increase in the chance of a shower on Sunday. If you would like to know more on any of these stories, visit CaymanMallRoad.com or follow Cayman Mall Road on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. That's it for now on the Daily Buzz. Thank you for joining me. Please stay safe and God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.